Salutations, nerds. I am Rick Yablonsky, and today is November 22nd, 2024. And I wanted to touch base on something kind of interesting that I'm noticing. And given the number of folks who still have this impression that the conservative party is Christian, I feel like it would be a good way to start pointing out that not only are they not Christian, they're using the Christian faith to manipulate their voters. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned, and I'm going to just go over some of the inconsistencies that I'm starting to see and need our pointing out, because otherwise the flock is going to be led completely off a cliff. Also, big heads up, this video gets kind of grimy toward the end, so trigger warning on issues of sexual misconduct undertaken by positions of power. First, let me get it out of the way. I was born and raised in a Christian environment. I went to church, I was part of youth group, I went to concerts with Michael W. Smith, and I even did that little hands in the air thing that... admittedly, even then, I had no idea what I was doing. So I remember a pretty cool live production that I also went to with my cousin back in the early 2000s in Tampa, Florida, where there was this huge event going on against like the war against sin or whatever. And like, it's pretty cool. I was really into it. Now, there were a few reasons for this, not the least of which, when I was young and growing up, I saw a bunch of people in my life with whom I considered responsible, upstanding individuals. They had successful lives, they had happy families, they all seemed to share that one thing in my eyes at the time that led to all of this, and that's what I thought was the Christian religion and faith. What I didn't understand at the time was that it was merely just a really solid amount of self-discipline and some ambition that it takes to achieve those goals. Two very human traits that are found everywhere, even outside of religious institutions, and have no supernatural motivations outside of their own perception. Almost kind of like that water that Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan give to the rest of the Toon Squad in Space Jam. So, of course, like, as a young man, as a teenager especially, my immediate guiding thought was, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want in life. I want that kind of stability and happiness. And through school, I held that belief. Religious conservatism was how you attain happiness and that stability that you're looking for. And what I failed to realize is this is exactly how they hooked me. I joined the military, and over the course of the next half a dozen years or so, traveling across the country and overseas, I met incredible people from all parts of the world. And began to dawn on me that it was all a farce. It was a facade. But it had been so deeply ingrained in my life that it took years of self-discovery and reaching out to different horizons and making mistakes I hadn't ever felt comfortable pursuing. But I finally let myself see the blatant disregard for human decency and actual personal freedoms that the religious conservative right actually maintains. It wasn't long before that manifested itself into a cascade of some of the worst self-deprecating senses of betrayal and humiliation that I felt. Not because I lost my faith, but I would often ask myself how I could have been so naive as not to see what was plainly in front of me. And, I wondered if I was wrong, and if no matter how hard I tried, I just wasn't ever worthy, of God's love or attention, because prayer after prayer, it dawned on me that speaking into the ether produced zero provable results in my life. And for a very large portion of that, I sincerely struggled with it. It took some enlightenment and pain to finally rip that Band-Aid off, but when I did, my life changed for the better. No longer carry artificial guilt, and I coincidentally empathize with people a lot more than I used to when I was a member of the church. Not only that, but I explored different parts of humanity that were otherwise taboo, simply because we choose to continue letting the handbook for life, written by people who have been dead for thousands of years, drive our every decision. Yet then we use that same book to justify forgiving ourselves for committing the acts of the books tell you not to do. So after a while, this started to kind of appear more like a self-fulfilling prophecy that was not unlike sociopathy. No other group in our society is permitted, let alone expected, to acknowledge their sins, no matter how deep those sins are, such as stealing and lying to your family and friends, but then forgive themselves right at the end of every week without first mulling over some cognitive behavioral therapy. Behavior that would be abusive were it not religious. And especially when those people back this with the idea that it's okay because they surrendered their ghost to a being who created the universe, but can't get over the fact that one guy may happen to be attracted to dudes. But therein lies the crux of my actual concern, because over the past 40 to 50 years, maybe longer, a phenomenon has begun to take hold. The Republican Party began to heavily veer into the direction of evangelicalism and eventually grew considerably conservative as it began to tighten its grip on the Bible. It wasn't long before it was also Baptists and Catholics, and even, if you can believe it, a lot of Episcopalian denominations. And by the 1990s, it was very, very clear that the GOP had completely become a party of theological principles instead of constitutional ones. And this drove a majority of their policies, and even to this day. In fact, they began to also use this force as a cudgel against their political rivals. Which brings me to the point that I started this whole thing off with. This theological standpoint is starting to really have some insidious results. Consider that some recent events, a driving force behind MAGA and Republicans in general has been the safety of children and the desire to demolish anything that they deem promiscuous. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is the congressman from the 4th District of Louisiana. He's Speaker of the House, which means he's third in line to the presidency. And by the way, it's a beautiful state. I mean that. If you ever get a chance to go to Alabama, do so. It's gorgeous. Mike Johnson is also a devout Christian. He is proud of this fact as he enjoys speaking at Christian events constantly and telling press that he and his children have purity promises with one another. He took his daughter to a purity ball where they signed a contract that did not look like they were signing a marriage contract, and it was completely not weird in any way. And he also spoke publicly about an app that he and his son share with each other that polices both of their pornography consumption. This is, I assume, to protect them from any risk of inappropriate conduct in the eyes of his religious teachings, for the kids. Yet, just this week, That very same man did something rather odd. When given the opportunity to make a public and ethics report on a fellow member of the Republican Party, Matt Gaetz allegedly took drugs, transported minors across state lines, and knowingly even had sexual intercourse with underage girls. One account witnessed by a woman was having taken place on an air hockey table with a 17-year-old. A witness who has already testified in Gaetz' guilt is also sitting in jail for these exact kind of crimes. He did this in order to allow Matt... Now, I'm talking about Mike Johnson here. He did this in order to allow Gaetz to take the newly nominated position of Attorney General, to which he was recently withdrawn from personally because of all of this. But mind you, this is after having been chosen by someone who openly personifies the 7 deadly sins while also claiming that he has nothing to apologize or admit guilt to. For the kids. Not to mention, none of them seem real enthused about these Epstein reports becoming public either. So that's interesting, right? For the kids. These are also simultaneously men who want to take away women's healthcare rights and civil liberties with our LGBTQ community. And neither one of those are seen in their Bibles. But this isn't ends to justify a means. This is just one singular example of a sea of evidence at this point that shows that this isn't just some kind of weird exception to the norm. At this point, it's a pattern. It's a trend. And it has become so reliable. It's being used to sway people away from doing things that they know are right. And I know it may feel good and it may feel right, but you can't allow for the church to supersede the Constitution and begin to dictate laws in this country. There's specific clauses identifying this very risk, and a lot of y'all seem all too happy to ignore the warnings, the history, and the writing on the wall. Since this is an important topic to me specifically, you'll be hearing more from me on this, especially given the fact that we seem to be faltering in our promises to the Constitution, and it needs to stop. If you stuck it out and you're also struggling with maybe stepping away from faith but have anxiety, some doubt, some fear, I get it. But take it from me. It's okay. Not only are those feelings valid and perfectly rational, but they can also be overcome. And I'm not a guru. I'm not some perfect being. I'm just an average dude who just finds joy without being affiliated with a part of a society that can no longer logically or in good faith justify its existence anymore. And I'm here to show you that it's okay if you don't wish to either. So come on in. The water's fine. Until next time, stay decent. Nerds.